Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a new episode of the FinTech Hunting Podcast. We have not one, but we have two amazing guests for you today. They're industry thought leaders, technology experts, and AI evangelists. Please help me welcome back to the show, Suha Zehl, founder of Z Technology Solutions, Dana Georgiou, Chief Everything Officer at Lending Luminary. Ladies, welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, Michael.
Yeah. So exciting to be
back. It is
back.
great to have you guys. We saw each other recently at the gathering, had a chance to sit down with both of you individually. We briefly talked about some of the things going on, but Dana, I'll start with you. Give me some of your observations of what you see taking place in the market right now. What's going on midsummer in the mortgage market?
I mean, so there's two things that I'm seeing. One, the solutionizing in mortgage, the AI, the technology, like that's moving at a speed of light. The mortgage market itself is still standing in its cement boots. Like we just can't get out of our own way sometimes. And part of that is, regulatory noise of, the CFPB, possibly being completely disbanded and all the regulatory coming into states and people that are lending, multi-state or panicked, like now we're going to have to deal with, every single state as a regulator. So, there's just a lot of overall noise. And then I think that there's kind of this summer lull of things where many of us expected to, at this point, start seeing some amount of relief, right? Like, all of the economic forecasts at the end of last year and at the beginning really kind of showed by the time we got to summer and, inching into early fall, that we should be seeing, closer to those 6% rates, right? And we're just not. And so I think a lot of lenders that were really counting on some of that lift, as opposed to planning strategically for if it doesn't happen, that's the challenge of where we are, in my opinion. Yeah.
Great insight. Suha, what would you add to that?
Seeing, in addition to what Dana shared, I'm still seeing, not just on the lender side, but on the provider and the partner side, they're not signing as many contracts because of the market situation that Dana mentioned. And so we're seeing a little bit of downsizing that's happening, maybe not to the extent it did a couple of years ago, but I am aware of a number of people who are, once again, looking for a new role. They've been let go. I'm seeing it, unfortunately, in the business development and in the marketing spaces right now, more than anything.
And that amazes me when volumes are down and people need to bring in more deals, right? Let's cut sales and marketing, and you're cutting off the hand that's feeding you. I never got that logic. It's counterintuitive. And I think people sometimes think, well, it's a nice to have, and we can just turn marketing on like a faucet, and it doesn't work that way.
No, especially now.
Sorry. Yeah.
Go ahead, Suha.
I think what I was going to add to that is many think that AI can replace those marketing individuals because it can churn out content, but there's a difference between quantity of content and quality of content and how you reach your borrowers. And that's where I see that happening.
Yeah,
I agree completely. Go ahead, Dana.
Right. And the way it's getting delivered, right? So, the old way of delivery is under the SEO. Well, that's not the only approach anymore, right? We've got GEO, we've got, a more three-legged stool, as my friend Bree Lees likes to say, versus just the one pillar that it kind of used to stand on. And we're not catching up. And as a matter of fact, to your point of the release of individuals, Suha, we're going backwards.
And I think that part is the second thing that I'm noticing is there's an increase of fear that I'm hearing in the tone of people. Not just the fact that they're letting people go, but there's a fear factor that's not really conducive to business or not really positive in its outlook.
Yeah, and I think as we try to kind of navigate the way, and Dana, you mentioned a number of things of everything's changing, and we're going to dive into AI in a second. But even if you just look at, as we're talking sales and marketing, even the algorithms on LinkedIn have changed, right? And how you produce content has changed to a GEO perspective versus an SEO perspective. Now AI search is radically changing how many people are coming to your website. It's down 25% this year across the board. It's supposed to be another 25% next year. We're getting hit in a lot of these ways, and I'm amazed, to your point, Suha, of AI is not going to take your job. People know how to use it will. And I think you can't totally get rid of all subject matter expertise and thinks AI could just do all of your marketing for you, or AI can just do all of your business development for you, or all of your underwriting. You still have to have subject matter expertise there. Maybe you don't need as many people, but you still need it. So let's dive in. And when we talk AI, I don't want it to be theory or, oh, the great promise, right? Here's all the cool things AI could do. You guys are out there, you're practitioners. That's why I wanted to have you on this call. You're working with clients, whether it's on a daily or weekly basis, of using actual AI today. So Suha, I'll start with you. Give me some examples, some case studies, some use cases of where you're seeing lenders, providers use AI in today's market.
That I've done with clients in the last couple of months. So these are concrete things that we have actually implemented or are in the process of implementing, I would say. One of the first things that we're looking at, and I know I preach to the choir when I say data, data, data. A lot of companies still have bad data. So one of the things that we're helping them with is actually implementing tools that allow them to kind of clean up the data, add contextual data where it's needed, whether it's structured or unstructured, to build the right AI framework that you need so you can build on it. We've also are looking at a lot of what I call sentiment analysis.
Yep.
And communication analysis. So it's not just looking at the tone of the conversation, but it's actually understanding the scope and the execution that's going on through that conversation. And there's specific tools that we are implementing that are helping clients. It's helping with coaching, it's helping with actually education, and it's helping with being able to identify where people are struggling. Our role as leaders is to help people do better. And these tools, these specific tools, they're low-hanging fruit. They allow you to help your teams really augment and scale with very specific guidelines and guidance. And the third thing that we're working on is we're implementing knowledge agents, which are very different. I actually wrote about that today because we've had a really great success on knowledge agents implementing at one of my clients. And knowledge agents is way beyond the chatbot.
Right.
And so these are really the three things that I'm seeing right now that are making an impact and changing the way smaller organizations are working.
So let's dive into that a little.
Writing. Sorry, go ahead.
So let's dive into that a little. As you talk about some of the low-hanging fruit, really being able to have AI review whether it's the loan officer calls and not just picking up the sentiment, but let's face it, a sales manager who has, let's say, 100 LOs, 500 LOs, 1,000 LOs, can't monitor those old recorded phone calls and go through all of them. So what do? They do 1%, or if they're really on the ball, maybe they do 10% of those calls. Kind of a crapshoot. Maybe you caught the LO on a good day, or you caught them on a bad day. Is that really representative? AI can analyze 100% of those calls.
Every single call, Michael. Every single call.
And give a summary, give an update. Here are the 5 trends that I'm seeing from the calls. Here's the biggest objection. So those are great points. Dana, I want to give you a chance. I know you've got a lot that you're working on too. You just wrote a piece the other day where you were specifically saying, hey, here's the amount of applications. Here's how long it's taking to do the loan. Give us some of those examples.
Yeah, so I'm totally on board with Suha, right? That knowledge agent piece of it is one of the things that I'm seeing really, really impactful, right? And to her point and to yours, right? It's not just deploying it in a chat bot, though it can be, right? But
Right.
it can essentially act as your entire help center, and it can be customer facing or it can be internal, right? My favorite thing, when I had a lender that I was talking to, and they're like, we get asked this question by our brokers all the time. And I'm like, why you can solve for that. Like, it's easy, right? If you're getting asked about the same question, that means there's a deficiency or a gap in either your guideline or your policy, right? And so we identify what that question is. The knowledge agent puts all that information together, and now we create a little training snippet that solves your problem, right? So seconds of times versus days and weeks of doing the analysis. So I'm a huge, huge fan of the knowledge agent. Where I have been seeing with some of my clients, we've been actually deploying just the agents. So everyone's familiar with SaaS, software as a solution. Now everyone needs to get familiar with AS, which is agents as a solution. And it's a little tongue-in-cheek, kind of funny, but it's true, right? Agents absolutely can be a solution that you deploy. And so what I mean by that is the voice agents, right? Because they are capable now of inbound, outbound, analysis, simultaneously texting and emailing. They have empathy. The amount of calls that they can make versus a human, it's not even comparable to what a human can do. Right. And so to your point, I posted, a real live example of one of my lenders that was in Texas. And they opted to originally deploy a loan originator assistant, which is fantastic, and they did it to their number one originator. They wanted to see, in just a single, and I love this idea. Start with one thing. Stop getting, paralyzed by a fear of having to deploy 10 things and start with one. So they did. They started with a loan originator assistant, and they were astounded how many calls this agent was able to make through this database, right? So they reached 15,000 past clients in 3 days.
Wow.
3 days.
Yeah, I mean, that's incredible. And when you look at it, the human can't do that. They're not going to dial through all of that. They're going to get tired. They're going to get frustrated. They have to get home. They have a break. These AI agents can work 24/7. I mean, obviously, you don't want to call someone at 2 a.m, but
Yeah.
right. But I mean, you can regulate all of that. Dana, any other examples before we?
Well,
I
the
got
other
more
cool
questions
thing
for you guys.
Yeah, the other cool thing that I really want to really impress upon people about an AI agent is they are multilingual. So if they have an inbound call or they're doing an outbound call and someone answers or speaking to them in a different language, they can immediately revert to that language. Now, I don't know about you, but in my lending days, we paid top dollar for Spanish speaking or other multilingual people in different departments. This completely eliminates the need for having to do that.
Exactly. So you guys have given great examples, and I think the first thing I want our listeners to understand is AI is being used. It's beyond implementation. It's already having an ROI, and if you haven't started, you're way behind.
Way behind.
So let's talk for a second. Suha, I'll come back to you. What is that barrier? What is that obstacle of why certain lenders are kind of still putting their head in the sand and not doing anything with AI?
Call it they're doing an ostrich because they put that head down in and they don't want to. So I think part of it is because strategically they don't have the knowledge on staff to help them with that. I think that is probably one of the biggest barriers. Their technology team, and I say this again, I'm preaching to the choir here. These kind of initiatives should not be led by the technology team. These are business-driven decisions.
Yep.
The technology is there to support you, but they should not be. And I was a CIO, so I'm the first one to say, this goes against everything I all believed in. But these are business decisions. These are business initiatives. They should not be driven by the technology team. And most technology teams, when you look at them, they did not grow up on AI. They don't have that knowledge to begin with. So one, they should not be leading those initiatives. And two, they don't even have the skill set for it. And so that is what I think is one of the biggest barriers. And unfortunately, they get stuck in that. And so I loved what you said today, Dana, on one of your posts. It's like no action is no longer an option. Standing still is not an option anymore. You're going to be left behind. We've been saying this for the last 2 years, and it's happened. Now, if you're not moving, if you're not doing something, you are going to be left behind. There's no question about it.
So let's talk about that. And Dana, I'm gonna kind of give you a different question. So all three of us have leaned into AI. All three of us use AI on a daily basis. We all offer AI services. Talk to me then about going with like a fractional and outsourcing some of that expertise to get started with AI, and walk me kind of through that process. So if the barrier is we don't really want to admit we don't know what the hell we're doing and we don't quite have the expertise internally, then we've got to give them a path to how do they then ask for and get help externally.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love the fractional opportunity for doing that, right? Because you can lay it across your organization. So sometimes someone just needs a fractional, leader in sales or in operations, or I love the idea of a fractional AI kind of being in a chief of staff type of fractional position. And that's because then they should be going across the entire loan origination cycle in a lender, right? How does it impact if we're starting in sales, great, but how does that also impact operations? And how also can it impact my quality control? And how also, maybe in my capital markets, right? And so there are very few lenders out there that have that type of expertise sitting in their shop evaluating everything else, let alone AI, right? And so you can bring in a Suha, a me, in a fractional, perspective that then can help you start with that one thing and really help implement it across all of the ways that can impact your business. And listen, I look at AI in really two ways. One, it's either revenue driving initiative, or two, it's a cost savings initiative. There are no other things, right, in my opinion. And so if you can demonstrate that, to a lender and then turn it over to them, because again, from a fractional perspective, I'm an in and outer, right? Like I come in, I do all of these things, I help set them up for success, and then the idea is to turn the keys over. Sometimes it doesn't happen, right? Sometimes they want to fill a full-time role, or they, see a need. With AI, I don't really anticipate there's ever going to be like a chief artificial intelligence officer, right? I think it's going to live and breathe in a lot of those senior executive leadership seats, and it should.
Well, and because it goes across every aspect of the organization, just like when I got in the business, the internet, right? It's not an LOS, it's not a POS, it's not a servicing or a default system. It is holistically impacting every aspect of the business. It could be HR, it could be accounting, finance, mergers and acquisitions, due diligence. I mean, we're just scratching the surface here. So Suha, I'm going to turn and ask another question.
No, can I just add one thing?
You bet.
Because I think what Dana hit on is really critical for leaders to understand. Your chief strategy officer, your chief growth officer, they are the ones who are kind of mapping out where your company is going. And so bringing in that fractional perspective from somebody who can create across what I like to call X teams. It's a term that I learned in my certification program that really helps you put together a cross business unit team, that you have a core team that really leads those initiatives, and then you bring in subject matter experts as the initiative develops. And that's why you get this collaboration across the entire organization. And that's what gets you buy-in, that's what gets you adoption, that's what gets you everything that you're looking for, honestly.
Well, and with a fractional, they're bringing best practices from so many other examples, whether it's the lender or on the vendor side, that internally you just don't have the opportunity to do. Your competitor down the street is not going to say, hey, here's what really worked for us. You guys should try it. We can bring in examples that have worked. Now, one question I'm going to ask both of you is, as we're winding down, and we could talk for hours, so you guys are welcome back anytime, and maybe this will be a session that we do quite frequently, whether it's monthly or quarterly, because this is going to continue to evolve. But Dana, I'll start with you then. How do you stay abreast of everything that's going on in AI? Because I always say the AI we use today is the worst it will ever be, and it's constantly changing. How do you stay abreast, and what are some of the tips you can give people of staying in tune with what's taking place with AI?
Such a great question, because to your point, right, it's just evolving so rapidly. So, one of the things that I frequently do is I post out in my network that says, bring me your solutions. I want to demo everything. I want to see it, right? Like I don't care if it's in the mortgage industry or not, because, potentially there's AI use cases that have happened in some other industry. So I go across industry looking at, it's funny you mentioned this because I had 2 demos of products that I hadn't seen before just today. Both of them doing completely different solutions. And that's kind of the other thing that, we want to make sure we talk about. There is no such thing as a holistic, I can do everything AI solution provider. If someone is coming to you and telling you that, you throw your no hands up, because chances are, as a lender, you're going to need 5, 8, maybe even 10 different vendors in AI because of the specialties that they do, right? So that's how I do it. I'm constantly reading. I go to great content creators like Suha and the stuff that she pushes out, because I find so much value there. And there's other creators that are pushing out AI stuff, but it feels like I'm on a hamster wheel sometimes, like, because it's never ending because of all of the information and the different solutions and how fast people are coming out with really remarkable solutions.
Great input there. There's like 6 or 8 newsletters that I get daily that I try to skim. Now, I don't have to read every conceivable word on every one of those pages to say, hey, how would that apply to our industry? How could I use that? Where would that apply for a client? Suha, any tips there?
Absolutely. So one, I definitely have like 10 or 12 content creators on LinkedIn that I follow. Like you, I subscribe to about 12 different blogs and newsletters that I get every day. But here's a tip. I've written a little AI tool that I put in those links, and it gives me the summary. And then if there's something that catches my eye and I want to read more about it, I go to the newsletter. I read, I'm a voracious reader. You can see I've got a couple of books sitting right here. Those are my next books that I'm going to be reading next. Podcasts are a great way. AI Daily, if you're not following, if you don't listen to AI Daily, that's a short 15-minute podcast every day. Really great information, really great insights that allow you to stay on top of these things. It can be overwhelming, and that's why you just have to know where to kind of like draw the line kind of thing.
Right.
Because otherwise you will be overwhelmed, because everybody has an opinion. I have an opinion. Dana has an opinion. You have an opinion. And that's just 3 of us right here, So you can get overwhelmed. So you just have to pick and choose.
Love it. Guys, like I said, you are welcome back anytime. Before we end though, Dana, if people want to find out more about all of your incredible services and how you could help them with AI, what's the best way they can get a hold of you?
If they're on LinkedIn, just, hit that little connect button. I love connecting with, all new kinds of people. Lending Luminary is the name of the company. We're on the web, www.lendingluminary.com. And I'm just Dana at Lending Luminary.
I love it. Suha, same thing with you. How can people get a hold of you if they want to find out more?
The same thing on LinkedIn. Just connect with me. Our website is Z as in zebra, my last name, ztechnologysolutions.com, and my email is suha@ztechnologysolutions.com.
I can't thank the 2 of you enough for being guests on this episode of the FinTech Hunting Podcast.
That was great. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.